If your education, it's not just for read and write. Education, it will help you to think better, think strategically, prevent from any exploitation. And when people talk to me about human rights, I say no. Human rights come later. Unless people are educated, you cannot talk about human rights. You cannot talk about gender. You cannot talk about other. Preventing exploitation. You prevent exploitation unless you're educating people, unless people have education. I'm not against human rights, but I think, if you don't have education, how can you think? How you're going to complain? How you're going to fight for your right? So, again, majority of the population still believe reading is working. Because they say reading is working, not for pleasure or exploring. That is the problem. Reading is cause headache. They say you read a lot, it make you headache. Read a lot, you're working. When you're holding a book, they say, okay, you're working. But in fact, it's not. Reading, sometimes we read because we want to make it pleasure, we enjoy. It was limited or non-appropriate reading skill, age, published, local language, and no assessment of population reading need and interest. This is a problem in Cambodia because to make sure people beginning to read and enjoy reading, the material have to be relevant. I know you all the librarian, you all the well-educated people, I should not raising this issue, but I want to share with you this is something which is the problem in Cambodia. Nobody understands the target group. Sometimes the text, it was for the lower grades, but the picture is for like adults. Sometimes the text was adult, but the picture was like for the kid. So it was a mix-up and this thing, and this is really a problem. Yeah. One more thing, the government do not have a strategy to initiate and publish and establish any regular activity to promote national reading culture. I have been working closely with the Ministry of Education. Room to Read is one of key partners with the Ministry of Education to work on these things. But yeah, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. So no National Reading Day for reading promotion in the society. I'm trying to convince them to get a reading day, National Reading Day. It took me more than a year now to get that approved. It will keep sending from one place to another. I have meeting with the minister for 2 times now to talk about this issue. And he said, oh, you have to go to this and to get the sub-degree from the king and all that. So we need to make sure we have everything, it's ready. So this is hopeless. So, yes. So despite the effort of the Ministry of Education and Development partner, culture of reading with education system is facing serious major barrier. The first part I'm talking, it was the reading culture in general, how people perceive. But now I'm trying to looking into the reading culture within education system. Because I believe in Cambodia, I'm not saying in Thai society or in Singapore, I know. But I think in Cambodia, teacher play a crucial role. Education play a crucial role in push and pull to promoting reading. Education, I don't think the Western society, they begin this habit of reading. But in fact, the education design is pushing toward that until sometime they gaining this habit of reading. So today you put the book in the library, they read it. Because it's becoming habits. But education, but like the situation like in Cambodia, you have to look from education perspective. How education playing role in pushing children to read. Because we have lost of reading model for generation. So that's what the exercise here I'm trying to reflect in here. What is culture of reading within education system? You're seeing reading additional reading material is not mandatory or encouraged by education system or the curriculum design for primary school. The reason I'm trying to talk limited with primary school because I personally believe that it should begin from the early age. if we want to talk about reading promotion, if we want to make sure children continue enjoying with their education, somehow, with the limited resources, we should invest in primary school. Secondly, you're seeing the entire primary education system is still using passive learning, like in Myanmar, they're using teacher center. They're talking a lot about child-centered learning, child-friendly school. But in fact, whether you really talking is nothing, unless you put in investment. You know, sometimes in Cambodia, they say, oh, child-friendly school, it ends up by arranging table from sitting in row to sitting circle, and then have kind of decoration. That is child-friendly school. It's not. Child-centered learning, it's more reading and interacting. And it's just a little training focused on teaching and learning of literacy. That is the problems. And also lack of student access to wide variety of interesting and stimulating reading material appropriate to the different age, range, and reading abilities. Yes, like I'm saying earlier, student-teacher ratio is quite high, and lack of facilitation of skill by the teacher is resulting hindrance of reading promotion in and outside classroom. You know what? Like I'm saying earlier, I'm not here to share you our problem, but I'm sharing you the lesson learned. Many primary schools in Cambodia, especially in the rural remote area, that's what I give you the statistic, because 80% of Cambodians live in the rural remote area, not in the city, the majority of them. And the majority of these people, normally in the government policy, they say one textbook per child. But in reality, no. Sometimes the student have to share textbooks. Not even imagine the additional reading material. And that's why the entire school year students rely on a single textbook to learn for each subject. And you can imagine, I know, I don't want to compare with TK Parks, but you can see it how much the book it is. So what are we going to do with that? What? Like I'm saying, government do not have funds to fund all these things. So in Cambodia, there's a lot of international NGO working, development partner, UNICEF, UNESCO, including JICA, the Japanese government assistance. But most of people putting their effort on infrastructure. UNICEF talking a lot about quality and trying to touch everything, which is to me part of quality is reading. Without reading, you don't need to talk about quality of education. And that's why I leave my job with Save the Children Norway as a country program director to work with Roomtree, because they're trying to touch everything. I say no. When we're talking about quality, we need to be focused. Our first priority is reading. But many of those international NGO, including donors, they don't like it because it's very difficult to measure. How you measure your impact? How you're going to convince your donor? Building infrastructure, building school, it's easier. And that's why this is the moving forward to promoting habit of reading, which is I'm presenting this part of my slide. It's the activity which is carried out by Room to Read, CPA, and SBA. We are the three international NGO putting a lot of effort supporting the Ministry of Education to doing reading and promoting reading in Cambodia. The government, of course, they're open, they collaborate with us. But when it comes to funding, they say no. We don't have money. You, development partner, need to help us. So I'm trying to group different things into a program. Actually, I made it. This I calling program, but I try to group different activity, different thing has been implemented by different key player, Room to Read, CPA, and SBA, to put it into program. So I calling this as a mainstreaming reading culture in education. system. Like I mentioned earlier, only education system can push in Cambodian context. If education ignoring value of reading, do not seeing reading as a valued aid to improve quality education, there was no way you can improve it. And that's why the entire program designing here, trying to make sure we integrated, we mainstreaming reading culture in education system. So the objective here is more children access to variety of quality reading material, improving their reading skill, enjoy reading, gradually gain habit of reading, engaging teacher. Because those today are teachers, they never read themselves. You know, I even ask them, I say, why don't you send the children to a library? They say, no, I need to complete the textbooks. I need to complete my curriculum. I say, what? Why not library? But they say, oh, library is disturbing my time. They don't see library as a place for learning. And you can imagine, because I don't blame them, because they themselves never exposed to this kind of thing. And that's why the entire of the program here, we're trying to make sure engaging teacher, education official, community in creating enabling environment to support children, integrating reading activity in education system to building existing education structure and ensure the functioning long-term sustainability of the programs. Because we are NGO, we cannot work for the rest. It just has to be the government. And that's why we try to engaging them to make sure whatever we establish, the momentum we build, it will be taken by the government. So this is this program, what we did, we have established classroom library. So this is classroom library, which is established to make sure we bringing the book close to the children. Because children, you know, my organization, it was based in the US. This is international NGO based in US. They all born with books. My founder, he reading book since early age. Then they sending book to school with assuming that children will benefit. But in fact, yes, children benefit, but not to the optimum. Because they don't used to it. So the book is there, they're enjoying reading, but they don't really cultivate it. And that's why our pilot here, we're trying to bring in the classroom library to make it close to them. Because the teacher only using a textbook. So we say, okay, why don't you using some of this material to teach? When you teach reading, textbook is so boring, honestly. And we bring them close. Because the teacher is lazy to go to the library, and they don't know which book they're going to select. And that's why we put this classroom library, the material put here, it have to be relevant to the grades of that. If they grade 4, we're placing the book, the grade 4, appropriate to grade 4s. So the classroom library consists of a small collection, 100 to 250 books appropriate for reading level of particular grade. And then we have developed this is we call establish a concrete library. It's more structure, have librarians to manage. So this concrete library was designed when the government have the room available, we use the room. If not, we build a standalone library building. So this is the room we have used it. If they have room available, not use it, so we use their rooms to establish a library. But if they do not have room available, we build a library, standalone building. So this is the inside of the library. So far we provide around 1,000 to 2,000 copy, which is about 100 to 120 to 200 different book titles for that. So this is the student, we're trying to do student reading activity. So far they don't. You know, it took us almost years to convince the government to issue a decree that each classroom, they must allocating library period. So at least once a week, children should go to library. This is mandatory. But it takes years until we can convince them. So far they say go to library should be during the free time. We say no, it's not enough. You have to do it, you have to allocate the library periods. But I think the situation has gradually changed. We established library minimum standard. You may wonder what do I mean when I'm talking about library minimum standard. I really engaging with this library things was 3 years ago. When I first to meet with the government officer, they told me, okay, we have more than 6,700 primary school, and half of this primary school have a library. I give them applause. I say, good, you are better than Thailand. But in fact, they don't understand what they mean, it's a library. Only one cupboard they calling library. A place to store a book they calling library. No librarian they also call library. Just one shelf they calling library, which is never open to the student. And that's why we say, look, if you continue to do that, without this standard, how are you going to mobilize resources? It took me around a year and a half with Room to Read CPA and SVA to convince them. Finally, they developing this minimum standard. So the minimum standard, at least they say a library, it should be this. So for the school which do not have the library, you should build it according to that. And then the government start to invest. With this now, the government agreed to investing money. They agreed to allowing librarian to have a librarian. So far, you know, the school, what they say, librarian, it should be the illness teacher who are not physically strong. The laziness teacher, which they say not function, lazy, you are becoming librarian. If you are a bit of